So good morning and welcome to Confronting Injustice. I am Linda Solomon.
And I'm Kayla Kittredge. Thank you for joining us for another community-centered conversation.
Yes, and today's discussion is part of our ongoing effort to help our listeners better understand the ideas, movements, and educational spaces that are shaping conversations today, locally, nationally, and globally.
Absolutely. But we want to be clear at onset. Our goal is to provide information, context, and first-hand perspectives that you, the listener, can make informed decisions and come to your own conclusions.
And with that being said, we're joined by Meghan Spencer. Welcome, Meghan. Yeah. Meghan is a political community organizer. You've been doing that for about 4 to 5 years, and she facilitates a revolutionary book study that brings people together to explore ideas about liberation, change, social change, and all through literature.
Yeah, and these opportunities for discourse in the community raise important questions about education, critical thinking, civil engagement, and how people, especially the younger generation, are seeking meaning in a complex world.
Mm-hmm. So today we're asking questions, not pushing positions. We're listening, learning, and encouraging through reflection.
So Meghan, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you begin by explaining what the Revolutionary Book Club is about?
Yeah, so Reading for Revolution is the name of our book study. It's a book study where we primarily discuss working class history. Mm-hmm. We discuss the history of revolutionary movements, both based in the US and around the world. We discuss revolutionary thinkers and organizers, as well as we give historical framing and context for current events that are happening, as you were talking about, to kind of help us understand and add context to an actively changing world. It's a place where we try to facilitate group discussion and just an accessible community space.
Wonderful. Well, Meghan, that's beautiful. What originally drew you personally to this kind of organizing and facilitating work? Was there a moment or experience that made it feel like extra important to you, or that the time was now?
Yeah, so I think that with the changing environment, since even in the past 5 or 6 years in the US, the political climate has changed so drastically. I think that that's why I chose to get involved in organizing work. But Reading for Revolution in particular, I think is so important to have an accessible community space. Our interpersonal connection has been so strained over the past few years. And so having an accessible community space for open conversation, open learning without judgment, a space to connect directly with your community, people in your locale who you may not get out and talk to as much, and also, again, providing that historical context to the social issues that we are still facing today, just in different respects.
You know, it's interesting that it is almost impossible to understand where we are as a society in the United States without knowing our history.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like trying to open a book in the middle and understand it. You really have to know the history.
No,
so I think it's wonderful that you have that you're facilitating these book talks, because it really can be very meaningful, right? And can you tell our audience about, like, why is it so important to you to do this work?
I mean, I think that it is so important to fight through the social division that has been sown in between us. We as the working class, and as really the 99% in America, have so much more in common with us than we are led to believe. And we don't benefit from that interfighting amongst our class. We really should have more accessible spaces for that open education, that open dialogue, connecting directly with not only people, but people who are in your community who are facing the same conditions that you're actively facing, so that you can maintain that connection, that discussion, and break through those barriers that are put up between us.
Right. Interesting.
So what do you feel like is education? Why reading for revolution? What is that component? How does that help us? Can you explain more about what the goal is for reading for revolution?
I think it's to make the educational spaces more accessible. I think it's to provide the discussion spaces, provide more accessible ways to digest the information of the reading, add additional context, and again, be able to apply that context that you've been given to the reading into the everyday actions that we are experiencing right now, to help us contextualize and understand and grow together better.
Beautiful. So like what kind of, if I was to stumble into your book study, what kind of books or materials are you usually exploring? Like, do they focus more on historical political texts, contemporary social issues, personal development, or like consciousness? Where are we at?
Yeah, so we we pick the books, about 4 months in advance. So we kind of vary how we pick them. Most times they are about working class movements or history, talking about social biases or contexts that exist present day, and providing additional framing or historical context for those that aren't necessarily taught directly to us in the curriculum. Trying to provide and discuss solutions and maintain the community connection and the optimism, and really maintain that feeling that we can do something, we can connect with each other on a deeper level.
I feel like I'm hearing like a collective consciousness vibe.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
So collective consciousness, but also a place where people can come and read the same text, but come with lived experience and have an opportunity to have discourse, question, reflect. That's interesting. That's really interesting. The question I have for you, do you believe that the group discussions are I would imagine they're transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely, when I facilitate or when I have been able to, even just attending, you come out with a very new perspective. And I found that a lot of people have had that same experience. And that's really what we're hoping for, is that people come out of it with that connection. And that community accessibility.
Yeah.
So, question. Oftentimes when we do things like confronting injustice, it is about providing an opportunity or an invitation for people to rethink their narrative. Because we have been socialized to believe what we believe. Whether it's true or not, we grow up in a society that has certain beliefs, and that's what we just adopt. That's who we are.
Absolutely.
I mean, so I would imagine the book club opens the door for people to explore not necessarily what's been ingrained in them, but through an historical lens, different sources, different people,
different options.
Different
really.
options.
And I imagine that with these being open to anyone in the community, that there's a lot of differences in opinions or views, or where you're meeting people where they're at by going out into the community. So how do you navigate different viewpoints within these discussions, particularly when participants may strongly disagree or come from very different backgrounds?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great question.
So we For Reading for Evolution in particular, we have community rules of like basic respect up front that are agreed upon in the beginning, that everybody is run through. So as long as our conversations remain in the context of those community rules, then we do engage with any type of conversation that comes up. And we are hoping that the community kind of coming in and recontextualizing the text with our real world experiences will help us connect on a personal level that will help deepen the understanding and hopefully will help people kind of understand and see through, like you were talking about, the narratives that we are kind of taught and kind of led to believe are intrinsically true, to really have a real in-person space to be able to challenge those. And again, with people who are in your community and directly facing similar struggles to what you might be facing.
Come on, man. Come on.
Wonderful. And so some listeners may worry about indoctrination, right, versus education. How do you distinguish between encouraging critical thinking and promoting a particular worldview? Because when people are uncomfortable or faced with something that's unfamiliar, they usually reject it. That's just the way it is, right? And so, yeah, what do you say about people who may say this is a form of indoctrination?
Yeah, I think that is a good question. I think that the biggest piece of that contextually for me is really about it's a book study. Like we are studying the context of the book that we have in front of us. We are pulling excerpts directly from the book, and then we are having community discussions directly around that. So we're not feeding a narrative so much as we are having community discussion and kind of having everybody come to your own conclusion given the context of the history, given the context of the community members that you've been spoken with, that the struggles that you've had on your interpersonal levels, and really breaking down again those barriers that might be up with those narratives that we've been taught to believe are just inherently true.
Absolutely.
Let me just say that I think it's really interesting, and it's wonderful they have the opportunity to come together to have a discussion, to have a discourse in a community that is safe and welcoming. And, we've had many conversations, so this is not about, people can believe what they want to believe, people come with their stuff, and it's okay. This is a conversation based on our text.
Yeah. And I think that, going off of, this isn't indoctrination, this is education. Meghan is part of my community. We live right down the street from each other. So and as you know, I co-taught post-colonial and diaspora studies. So this was the book that she was reading for her book study for the Reading for Evolution happened to line up with what was being taught within the institution. So we had invited her into our class, and that's how we start. That is community. I had the opportunity to be at one of these Reading for Revolution sessions, and you do a really great job of breaking those things down and keeping it meeting people at their level. So before you go, so I think that is, I'm glad that you shared that, because that's what learning is supposed to be about. It's not just going into a classroom and sitting and having someone dictate and you take notes and then you give it back to them. Absolutely.
It's about being in community. It's learning with and from each other. And so the way that you two connect is wonderful, because it's a prime example of what should be happening.
Yeah. And now we have the ability to move together and bring every person, like this is networking and fortifying those networks, fortifying that bond within community and expanding upon that. And that education component is critical. As we begin to, and I would love to ask you, so in your experience, how have these discussions impacted people on a personal level? such as like how they see themselves in their community or their role in society? Do you see a shift happening as you throughout this process for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that there's a strong community showing for our Reading for Revolutions. Oftentimes we're running out of room.
Really?
And that was even within our first few sessions. There's a very strong community presence, which we're incredibly grateful for, and we are partnered with a local bookstore, which we're so fantastic.
Shout out to Lala Books.
Shout out Lala Books in Lowell. They've
Wonderful.
been amazing. So we're hoping that helps bring in another aspect of the community. But we find that a lot of people are grateful for the difference in perspective. We're finding that a lot of people are grateful for the community space, the ability to connect with their neighbors and have open and honest and vulnerable conversations about the struggles that we are facing as the working class, whether they are different or whether they are similar. Like, all of our struggles are interconnected, and a lot of people are finding that belief as we're kind of talking and connecting with our community in a way that we haven't been able to before. And I found that a lot of people also feel empowered and hopeful by the end of our sessions, and less isolated by the system that we're in, and more like we do have the power and the ability to connect and educate and make a change.
Absolutely. And like, just reflecting back on one of, walking into a space like that and feeling, watching the news in the morning and seeing whatever headline you're seeing, and having, like, you feel powerless and helpless, truly. But it is, like walking in and reading like something like Angela Davis, Women, Race and Class, or seeing that there are people out there studying Walter Rodney. That was something that was, and walking and studying with human beings who may have all different types of, from all walks of life, rather. You have maybe someone that's unhoused, someone that's struggling for food, someone that is a business owner as well, dissecting this information together and walking away, and you're grasping some of that power back that the news or whatever policy passed for the morning has tried to strip you of. That was just my experience from that, but it seems that is truly what is going on in these spaces and places and within our community. It is felt, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And during this political climate, when there's so much negativity, I think it is, there's a lot of negativity. I think people have energy. What we see on the news is creating energy. It's creating something in people, and I feel like they need to do something, and that is why we see so many people out protesting. These crowds, massive crowds of people, because they feel compelled to do something. And this is an option, because I know you shared that your book clubs are multicultural, multi-ethnic, like they cross all lines. So there's no, unlike other systems where some people are excluded or feel excluded, that's not the case here. And so it's a nice opportunity for people who may not want to march, or who may be out there marching and still feel compelled.
Yeah.
Check it out. Be in a community that's about learning and sharing and
arming yourself with
moving
knowledge.
forward.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
arming yourself with knowledge.
Absolutely.
Education is a gateway to the most powerful tool you can arm yourself with. I think that learning in community, though, as well, so you're not just by yourself and trying to dissect these texts or dissect.
Absolutely.
You're in conversation, which makes it, like, it helps it stick. You can retain it, you can apply it to real life, to right now.
Absolutely.
And then do something with that energy.
Absolutely.
And know where to go and how to direct that.
Absolutely. Well, research clearly demonstrates that learning in community, in groups, is much more effective than trying to doing it alone.
Right.
There's no doubt. And I could read a text because of my lived experience, I'll interpret it one way, and the two of you, the same would probably be true for the two of you.
Yeah.
And so when you can come together and talk about your perspectives, it widens your scope. It widens your ability to make informed, thoughtful decisions.
Yeah, and
You know,
engage that critical thinking. Like
Absolutely.
it's beyond just reading the words on the page. You are interacting with this material and the text. You're deep diving. We're not just surface level
Right.
letters. Now we're like applying that, and how do we make it better? So we're not just, it's beyond discussing the text in front of you. It's like, okay, well, now that we have this base and these thoughts and this energy, now it's like we can apply collective action together. And I think
Just
that's
make
beautiful.
wiser decisions
Yeah.
based on informed information
Yeah.
versus just, I'm doing it this way because this is what I've always done, this is what I was told, this is what I was taught in school. Well, what if that's wrong?
Yeah.
And what do you do with the energy that it creates if you find out that what you believed to be true was not? And, and that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And so I think that is why some people, even in the face of documented facts, will do something that makes no sense. You know what I mean? Because people don't want to, many people don't want to deal with the uncomfortableness of believing or learning that what they believe to be true is not.
Yeah, that they were duped.
And it creates an energy, and it's okay.
Absolutely.
The thing is, do you walk through that? Do you explore that? Or do you retreat and just, I believe this just because I believe this, period?
Yeah, and I feel like we're seeing a shift in our communities across the nation right now where some people are feeling they're discovering that they were duped and waking up to the atrocities that are. And like, what do you do if you're in that position?
Absolutely.
I think that, of course, coming out, the groups like Reading for Revolution is exactly where it
That's a
starts. That's a
wonderful
great
option.
starting
Absolutely.
point. Like, it's okay, and we're here. Please come. We love you.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, your meetings via Zoom or are they in person?
We meet in person because we really do value that in-person
Interpersonal,
community connection.
Sure, of
yeah.
course.
Sorry, I was gonna say. So I know that you said that you host Reading for Revolution in Lowell. Can those Reading for Revolution spaces be found anywhere else in Massachusetts?
They're locally in this area, Stoughton, Boston.
In Massachusetts, I'm not positive. I do think that there are some that are run out of Boston, but that are also held at local bookstores, I believe in Cambridge, if I'm not mistaken. But the party runs them out of different areas, so it would be something that would be more of a locale based.
Okay, and not by Zoom.
No, not by Zoom.
So you got to go out there and talk
Yes.
to your
Gotta
neighbors.
meet your
talk
neighbors
to your
in
neighbors.
person. Yes.
Okay.
And like for anyone looking for information, I know that I was looking for different spots because I was out of Lowell for a little while. And you can type in just Reading for Revolution and it will pop up and guide you to exactly
you absolutely
your
can
space and your
Google in.
community.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then finally, for our listeners who are simply seeking to be more informed, reflective, and engaged citizens, but aren't sure where they stand, what would you encourage them to do next?
I mean, I think to figure out where you might stand, what you stand for, what your struggles are, what you're passionate about, is the first step to evaluate, to read, to listen to others, to make those community connections, to go out into your locale and to meet the community organizers, to speak to those in your community and see where you might have connections. Come out, like you said, to a group like Reading for Revolution. Really meet your neighbors in person, speak, understand their perspective, understand their struggles, they truly are more deeply interconnected than we might realize, and that's the only way that we're ever going to really find out or contextualize where we're at, how we stand, or where to move. We have more power than we realize once we're connected and organized, and the longer that we stay divided, the less motion that we're going to be able to have.
Yeah, I think that also, right, you were talking about division, and it's like the 99 at the bottom, like, we have the power. I think the meme that comes to mind, or the video or image, is in Finding Nemo, where we see all of the fish become one big
Yes.
fish, and like that, that's what it is. That's where we're at. It's just like we all have to come on. We all have to turn on.
And I think that one thing that people can do reflectively is think about your values. What is important to you and why? Because your values will determine what you will or will not do. And if you care about your neighbor, if you care about living in a world that is safe, that's nurturing, that's secure, that's realistic, I mean, you have to figure out what's important to you.
Yes.
Because that will determine how you move in the world. And you have to do some research to figure that out. You know? And your values may not be consistent with your family's values.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Of truth, honesty, being genuine, and being in spaces that are that way, then you have to do some research, you have to do some reflection, you have to do some soul searching. Because you want to be true to yourself. In order to be true to yourself, you have to know what's important to you.
And I would say to anyone beginning this journey, or any emerging adults, any person that is waking up to what a different thought process than you've had before, question everything.
Absolutely.
Question everything. Do your own research. Don't take any person's word for what they're saying. Do your own digging, and then come up with your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on something.
Especially, and I will close with this, the closing thing is, and I thank you for being here, but you know, these last few days we've been watching on TV we've been watching with our eyes on TV, and the narrative that's being given to us is, no, you really didn't see that. That was something other than what you saw.
Yeah.
And so it can be confusing and challenging for some people to make sense of what's going on, because this is nonsensical.
Yeah.
It really is. And so we want people to know you're not crazy. You're not crazy, you're okay. Just, you know, you got to figure out your values, what's important to you, and then move on it. And I am just so incredibly encouraged by people showing their support, showing up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a tidal wave, you know, and people for people is what this is about, or what it should be about. People supporting each other and
connection. We are strong. We can do this. And like, together we can. Those are phrases. Together we can. And this is what I feel like, Meghan, your book club and your actions is together we can in action. Your commitment to community, building support, building solidarity, your efforts are beautiful. They're absolutely amazing, and I thank you for them. And thank you for coming on and joining us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful.
Oh, and as we close out, the book that you're reading now, or the
book you're reading next. When's the next book club reading? And what are we reading? What are we getting into?
So our next book club reading is actually this Saturday, January 17th. We're reading Assata Taught Me. It's essays on Assata Shakur and her teachings.
Nice.
So very exciting.
Big fan. I'll be there. So like, that's.
Is there a phone number or something? How can people? So go online, and there's contact information online, because
Yeah, so our Our branch's Instagram is PSL_Lowell. We have all of our information there. Lala Books in Lowell also posts our book club information.
Lala Books.
And if you're interested in getting organized, psl.web.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is a beautiful
Okay, and
comment.
thank you.
PSL.org, sorry. PSLweb.org.
Okay, we got it. And thank you to my co-host, and thank you to our listeners. This is about learning with and from each other, right, and building each other up. And so until our next show, thank you very much for tuning in to Confronting Injustice, and, be well.
Peace and love.